Welcome to the Accountability and Hopeful Fridays Friday session.
Interviewers can see that when you interview. So the primary way to join our LinkedIn group, actually, if you can drop all these links in the chat, our LinkedIn, our Instagram, our YouTube, X, please like and subscribe. Our community is a safe place to vent and ask questions. And so that's the new portal. And complete the survey if you've attended at least one session and never completed. It's how we make things better, how we bring you the things that you're interested in and want to see and get out of these sessions. I want to take a quick moment to share that what this community has accomplished together. As you know, we're a nonprofit, so we believe in giving back zero to our members. So some quick stats. We are built around the principle of giving back without expecting anything in return. So every session, every resource, every connection, and every opportunity is provided at no cost to the members. So since AHF began, we've hosted 79 sessions, welcomed 114 guest speakers, each bringing a unique perspective to help members navigate today's job market. Most importantly, 406 members have landed new jobs, and that's more than a statistic. That's 406 success stories. 406, that's a tongue twister. 406 families impacted and 406 reminders that persistence, preparation, and community can make a real difference. So our community has also grown to more than 3,000 LinkedIn members, and we're continuing to grow every week as more people discover what AHF has to offer. The one thing that truly sets AHF apart is our commitment to bringing in a different guest speaker every Friday. That means our members benefit from a wide variety of experiences, perspectives, practical advice, industry insights, rather than hearing the same message week after week. And these numbers represent much more than growth. They represent a community that believes in helping one another succeed. Each connection made, each piece of advice shared, every introduction, every success story contributes to what makes AHF so special. So without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce today's guest, Nancy Amert. Nancy is the founder of Agility Educators and has spent more than 20 years leading enterprise transformation initiatives for Fortune 500 organizations across financial services, technology, and manufacturing. Throughout her career, she's led more than $2 billion in global transformation initiatives, helping organizations navigate complex change while keeping people at the center of the process. Her background spans organizational change, management, digital transformation, agile leadership, AI governance, fintech, innovation, and enterprise modernization. And she's also the author of Boundless Change, a new book that challenges traditional approaches to change management and explores what effective leadership looks like in today's rapidly evolving world. Nancy and I spoke earlier this week. We agreed that instead of a traditional presentation, we'd make today's session a conversation. So we'll be talking about what it really takes to stand out in today's job market, the hidden barriers many job seekers face, and how to turn setbacks into strategies that help you move forward with greater confidence. I encourage everyone to think about your own questions as we talk. We'll leave time at the end for Q&A, so if something resonates with you, be ready to jump in. Have we started recording?
Yes. I saw it flash on my screen.
Okay, excellent. I can't see that from the presenter screen. Please join me in welcoming Nancy Amert to Accountable and Hopeful Fridays. Yay!
Thank you.
I'm going to start sharing here. And I'm going to minimize my screen so I can pull up my questions. So just give me a quick moment.
Sure. And while you're doing that, let me just say thank you to the Accountability and Hopeful Friday session for having me, and thanks to everyone for joining, especially on this day before the big holiday, the 250th celebration. So thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us. And especially thank you to Danny for developing this and getting this out to the world. This community is going to continue to grow just because there's so much heart and it's so needed in this marketplace.
Okay, hang on. I lost my notes. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I can't seem to find my note. Just give me a second.
I have a slide I can pop up as a background too, if that's easier and faster as
Yes.
well. Okay, let me do that real quick.
Okay. Found my notes.
Oh, you
Yay.
did? Okay. We'll go
I
back.
did.
Okay.
Wait a minute. No, I didn't. Okay. Found it.
Okay.
All right.
You're
Let
just
me just
teasing us.
open this up.
Yeah.
I am teasing you guys. All right. Found it. Sorry about that. I thought I had opened this up and apparently I didn't. I had everything else already. I had the slide deck. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So Nancy, before we jump into today's topics, I'd love to start with you. You spent more than 20 years leading enterprise transformation and helping organizations navigate change. Looking back, what drew you to this work in the first place and what has kept you passionate about it?
That's a great question because my background does span a lot of different areas. So I can share that I went to college at Marist College and I got my master's in accounting. And I graduated with that MBA. And in my mind, I thought I'm going to go start my own company. And that was right at the point of like the dot-com boom and then eventually the bust. So I said to myself, this is like where I really want to like use all this education, go out to the marketplace. And I started a company called coolfind.net. And I ran that for about 2 years. We were doing early e-commerce way back when. And I was located just north of the New York City area in the Hudson Valley area. And I ended up selling my company to my partner at the end of 2 years because it was just the right time and the right thing to do before kind of the bomb of the dot-com bomb was going to happen. So I ended up basically in a short kind of story, I ended up selling the company and I went out looking for a job. And it was really funny because I had actually gone to a recruiting company and I had pitched them on a website. And this woman had a job that scooted across her desk and she said, "Hey, Nancy," she goes, "I remember you coming in. You gave us that whole presentation. Sorry we didn't take you up on the website, but I think you're perfect for this job." And so she did this whole like rolling description of the job. And I kept saying to her, like, "What's the name of the company?" "No, let me tell you more about this company." Like, "What is it? What is it?" And she goes, "It's IBM, Nancy." I said, "Look, I don't think I'm an IBMer. I'm not sure I'm like that cut out to be an IBMer." And she goes, "Please, please, just go on the interview. Just go for me. Just even if it's just for me, just go, please." So I thought, well, she's probably right. I'm selling my company. I should go, take a look and see what this is all about. So I went to IBM headquarters. I landed the job, the short story, and I worked there for 6.5 years. And I was on a huge project, and we were rolling out what was called the Global Credit Solution. And it was all 50 people on the tech side. I was running 50 people on the business side. We deployed, our first deployment went to the London and the UK with this brand new solution. And it became one of those moments that you never forget in your career because we rolled out the software and it didn't turn on. Basically, what someone had forgotten to do was to actually check the connection between what was in the UK office and the credit office there, and the connection back to the Somers database, Somers New York database. So somebody had to run downstairs and scramble, and about 2.5 hours later, we got the connection. And we thought, okay, it works, they're using it. And the next thing was a phone call to my boss by the credit manager in the UK saying he and his team can't get any work done. The clients are upset, the customers are upset. Like, why didn't you guys come over here and sit with us and train us? Like, we don't know what's going on. We don't know how to use this. Like, basically, we had done such a great job putting everything together, and we had launched this and felt we were so successful, And yet we forgot the whole part that's called change management, the people part. So I like to say that project management is like, there's two parts to that, right? It's like the right brain, left brain. Project management and change management have to go together to have a whole brain and to have a successful project. So that brought me into the world of change management and helping to make sure that when you're rolling out technology, you're also rolling out the training plans. You're rolling out the plans that also include training the sales force, including training the vendors. It's all these things that you tend to forget that need to be there in this basically big universe view of what you need to deploy to really truly be successful. So that led me to kind of fast forward to current. I had a manuscript written from 14, 15 years ago, and I finally got on Amazon Kindle and wrote a book called Boundless Change. And it's all about like how to actually empower leaders to understand and deliver not just change, but like to continuously change their organization. It's not just like you put this solution in and you're done. It's all about like having that vision of it. By the time you actually deploy the software, it's probably outdated. So what are you doing behind it? And then now the big quandary is you've got this overlayer of AI on top of it all. So it's an interesting time that we are all in, and certainly as job seekers, and you're looking at job listings and job descriptions, you're going to just see more and more and more listings for everything that embeds AI into it, because that is literally like where the future is and where things are going. So that was a long answer to a short question, Crystal.
No, no worries. So one thing you mentioned when we spoke is that many job seekers aren't actually doing anything wrong. They just simply haven't been taught the unwritten rules of today's hiring process. What are some of those hidden rules that you wish every job seeker understood?
Thank you. Great question. It's a great jump off point too, because like what I want to do today is like basically hand over some hard won secrets from the job market and my own personal experience of looking for the next opportunity for myself over the past roughly year. I'm currently on a contract assignment with Wells Fargo, and that's here in the Charlotte area. So, and I was told when I landed that assignment that, believe it or not, there were 757 other applicants, Nancy, and we picked you. And that was supposed to be a great compliment. Instead, it kind of put like like I felt like somebody put ice down my back. Like, what do you mean? Like, is it really that incredibly competitive out there in the marketplace? And it truly is. And then it was the moment I started thinking, well, what really set me apart? What was different about me versus all those other candidates? And I had to flash back in regards to the interview process. And it was the third interview. They were still kind of like telling me, oh, we've got 4 or 5 other candidates. And this is, again, just for a contract role. So it was kind of baffling to me that there was that much competition. And then I got to the final round, and it was down to me and one other person. And believe it or not, it was when I flashed this book. And as you can see, it's kind of a thick book, but I was just telling her that, what have you been working on lately? Well, I've got this book from 14 years ago and I got it out to the world. And she's like, wow, that's a thick book. And then all of a sudden it was just almost like her expression on the Zoom call changed. And I realized she had like non-verbally leaned in. And it was like that moment where it's like, I think I just landed the job. And it was the funniest moment because, and that's like the crux of what I'm going to share, is that I started to really think about how do you set yourself apart as that candidate? What makes you different? And how do you, it's the book? Is it because you've got community work, you've got white papers, you've got a blog, you're doing a podcast? Like, what is it that you can bring to the table that sets you apart? And I also will share with you too that something a recruiter said to me one time, just to get on an interview schedule. He said that they were picking candidates if they had their own personal bio website. So you can go to nancyamert.com and you can find, basically it's just my resume done kind of pretty on the website. But I did that work because in the type of environments, these Fortune 500s, they're so afraid of getting emails with attachments. So if somebody, even a friend of mine says, hey, I know somebody who knows somebody at the bank, they're not going to actually go and click on an attachment. They're going to go to LinkedIn, they're going to look at your profile. But then if they also have your bio listing on a website, they can go to that. So again, anything that distinguishes you, that sets you apart. So if this is how the recruiters and the companies are trying to sort through and say, how do we go through 757 resumes? They don't, right? It's like, how do they figure out how to sort through those? And this one company here in Charlotte had said, and a large employer said, if they've got their own bio website, those are the ones we're going to pick and use for interviewing. Crazy, right? But they're also struggling too because the system's broken. Like the whole recruiting and the whole applying and the whole, resumes and everything is just a very, very broken system. And it's broken on the other side too. They're absolutely swamped and overwhelmed. I talked with several recruiters who told me, I said, how do you go through something when you got more than 2,000 resumes submitted for a job? And they very sheepishly shared with me that they just pick the first 10. If you happen to be the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that came in the door, that's who they're picking up. So that, and their rationale was that you must be really looking for work and sitting on that job board. And that means that you just really want this job. You already had it queued, and that's the one that you're just sitting there and you're waiting, and that's the person who's passionate and is waiting and was wanting it. So they're just going to pick those first 10. And I was also told by another recruiter, if a job posting is over a week old, forget it. It's like you are down so far in the stack, and they've already done their sort and their filters, and they've probably already prepped their first round. They probably aren't going to come back around for a second round. And if they do, they might just open it up again and put it out as a new listing. So it's like and believe it or not, somebody else shared that there's bots now that people have designed that literally look for the second that job posting is up, that their bot goes in and drops their resume into it, even if they're not a great fit. They just want to be in that first grouping that most likely the recruiters are grabbing. So yes, it's a scary face, Danny. But it's important to realize, so you don't waste your time applying and you're in a stack that nobody's ever going to look at, right? Because that's just where you're going to end up. So one of the other things I want to share, kind of going along with this, is I had a friend of mine from many years ago, and he was a very successful, he sold medical devices, and he went literally around the world, became a multimillionaire. And one of his adages that has stuck with me for all these years is he says, Nancy, nothing ever happens until you get out of your own driveway. He says, just remember that. Nothing happens until you get out of your own driveway. And so as a salesperson, he was really busy. He was super busy, and sometimes he would get a little, like all of us, we procrastinate, and he would kind of find himself putzing around his house and his farm and his yard, and all of a sudden he was like, he'd get this look and he'd go, okay, I got to get out of here. I got to go somewhere. I got to go meet people at a coffee shop. I got to get out of here just to meet people. And it was the secret of his success, because he would have these conversations, he would meet people, and one thing would lead to another, and believe it or not, somehow magically it would turn into sales. And so I just share that because if you write that down and put that somewhere on your mirror, to get out of your own house, kind of get out of your own head. But when you're just in front of the computer, only so much can happen, right? So it's actually still that one-on-one, human-to-human connection that can help to make the difference. Let them know you're looking for work. Let them know you need their help.
So as a follow-up, you've talked about, when we talked, you talk about building proof of your value rather than simply claiming it. So what does that look like in practice? And then, kind of circling back to something you just said, for someone who's listening today and thinking, I don't have awards or a book, where would you recommend they start building that evidence of value?
So this was also a hard one lesson for me. And I don't know if you guys have gone to your network on LinkedIn and prior bosses, prior colleagues, anybody, everybody, like, have you gone out and asked for LinkedIn recommendations? It kind of was a big thing like 2013, 2014. It was like everybody's got to have their recommendations up on LinkedIn. We got to be able to see them along with your resume. And then it waned pretty badly. Like it got to the point where everybody said, no, like it's kind of cheesy and it's kind of lowball. We're not going to do that. And then all of a sudden it's back, and it's back in a big way. And so I ended up in that job search period last year, and I just started calling up people and reaching out to people and asking them to put a recommendation for me. And it was quite honestly hard for me to do. It was very humbling. And I thought, what if they don't want to give me a recommendation? What if they want to give me one sentence? Or it just was really kind of like a very hard experience. But then all of a sudden, like somebody would follow through and I'd just be like blown away by what they said. And so happy to post it. And so when you have like a number of people who are credible coming back and saying, hey, Nancy did a great job doing this, that, or the other thing, that kind of proof is so critical and so important, because somebody else is saying something about you. And that goes so far now in the job search, and it's this broken system. They don't know what to trust or how to find out about people or what they're made of. So the trust element is like, and they've got so many other ones that they can turn around and say, well, we don't really know about Nancy, but she only has 3 recommendations and a book. But we've got this other person who has 10 recommendations, and we can get a really good picture of like how everybody liked and loved him over the past 10 years. And that sometimes can really be a decider. And it's not the old paper recommendations. It's like the LinkedIn. Somebody said this to me not too many weeks ago, that LinkedIn is now like captured something like 80% of the recruiting market. So if you're on Monster and if you're on all those others, it's like you may be wasting your time. Focus on LinkedIn, get your LinkedIn recommendations up. And then it's, of course, like those postings. It could be that you're posting about, like, for instance, I'll share a personal story. I've decided I'm not a coder, I'm not a programmer, but I've decided that the world is all going to be about Python in the future. So I'm taking a course on Python, and I'm about ready to get the certificate, and I'm about ready to post it on LinkedIn. Now, how many people do you know have a Python coding certificate? It's that little moment that says she's different because she's a lifelong learner and she's keeping her skills sharp and she's adventurous, right? There's something different about her. And they may like that. They say, hey, you know what? She's keeping her skills really sharp. And that's a big message to send back out to the world, out to a future recruiter or any employer, that's the kind of talent they want to hire. So anything that you can do that can actually up your game is, and I could give you a long list and happy to do that if you guys connect with me afterwards. But it's one of those things that you have to look at it for yourself and try to put it together and say, what makes me unique? What can I do besides all this, like, resume submissions and job hunting that I can do that still like gives me those extra, if you will, credibility points that will be the tip. That's like, sometimes it's that little thing that tips the scale, and that they pick you over the other candidate, or they pick you for the interview process because they saw something that came across their desk that just wowed them. So that's the person I want to call an interview. It's kind of answering that question And, I'll also share, and then Crystal, when you and I talked, like that epiphany moment that I had. I had been submitting, this was early in my job search. I had maybe 3, 4 months into a job search, and I was like submitting things. And then I was looking at this company that said, oh, we'll help you with your whole packaging. And one company, basically, I looked at and talked with, I was like, believe it or not, they wanted $13,000 to put my whole packet together. Then another company that said, oh, well, we'll do it this way, that way, and the other way, and that'll be $18,000, Nancy. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's just like a lot of money. Like there's nothing, definitive that they're going to like land me some great, amazing job at the end of it. In fact, I got their contracts and there's a clause in there that says, hey, if you don't find a job within 6 months, and we encourage you then to go out and start your own company, like we're not returning the money. Like the guarantee goes void after that. Like if there was even like a semblance of a guarantee, it's void after that. So it's really, the only advice I have for those listening is probably steer clear of those because that's an awful lot of money in a very difficult time, economically, financially. And there's so many AI tools now. There's so much you can do to develop and create your own resume packages using anything from ChatGPT to Claude to others. So use those tools, $20 a month. Up your game and up your documents using those tools. And you'll learn as you go as well. You're going to be actually intuitively learning AI and those tools. So you kind of get the double benefit of not only am I saving myself from having to spend all of those tens of thousands of dollars for somebody else to do it, I'm going to do it and learn it for myself. And
Excellent.
just, yeah.
Excellent. So one of the things I really appreciated in our conversation was your willingness to acknowledge, well, we both acknowledge that not every hiring decision is based purely on qualifications. So candidates encounter barriers like ageism, sexism, racism, and being labeled overqualified. I just love that compliment. Or simply not fitting someone's idea of a culture fit. So how do you encourage people to navigate those realities without losing confidence in themselves?
The one thing that I'll say with like all the isms, like ageism, sexism, racism, classism, people even will be prejudiced if you have an accent. It's kind of a wild, crazy world out there. And if they're going to find a reason to like mark you down, the way you get your points back up is your credibility. So it's kind of like you can't beat credibility. It doesn't matter if you're purple with spots. You come in the door and you have so much credibility that they don't even know what to do with you because you're so credible. That's how you cut through all of that smoke and haze of any of that, and don't fall prey to it. The other thing that I'll share too is that I was looking for work, and one of my friends is a Harvard lawyer, and he does a lot of work with the government. And he said to me, he goes, Nancy, he goes, you're in that age bracket where, you've got to be targeting for employers that are actually looking for employees like you. And I said, well, what are you talking about? And he said, well, he says, did you know there's a government mandate with the large banks that required them to hire like the people that are in like 40 to 50 and then 50 to 60 and 60 and above even. That they actually have to show the government a report that says that their current employees fall into these brackets and that their hiring process also includes those brackets. So if you are of a certain age and you're thinking I'm getting squeezed out, like they want the younger generation, or let's say there's like a bias of some type, you have to just say, wait a second, like these large corps are under a mandate from the government, and they're going to have to be actually looking for candidates and filling those spots. And so that was one of the reasons I ended up at Wells Fargo, I believe, like behind the scenes, is that they didn't discourage people that are in my type of age bracket, the 50s to the 60s bracket. which a lot of people feel like, oh, I might as well just go ahead and retire early if I can. And what does retire early mean? Which is if you don't have the means or the way to retire early, that's not really like where you want to be, because you still have a lot to give to the world. You still want to get up and go to a job. You still want a paycheck. Like, it's like that may not be your option. But don't feel like society's going to squeeze you down that path, because it's less about that and it's more about a tactical shift in your thinking about, if these companies are required to do it, then those are the doors I should be knocking on.
Right. So, every job seeker experiences rejection. You and I have kind of a shared way of looking at it. We both see rejection as information rather than failure. Can you talk about that mindset and how it changed your own job search?
That's, I guess, for myself, because I was and have been and always was like such an athlete. So when I had a coach, like I played a lot of tennis in high school, and the coach would say, "Oh, Nancy, you're not holding your racket right when you're doing that backhand. Put your hands like this." I never took that as discouraging. I took that as he's really trying to help me to up my game. And so I have that mindset when I'm in an interview process, or even now, like I'm in a corporate environment and sometimes things don't always go right, right on the job. We've all had those days. And you have to stop and like peel it back and say, hey, what do I take away from that will help me? Not rejection. Don't fall down the rejection path. This is actually information and it's helping you, right? This is the coaching. This is the moment that life is kind of saying, hey, nudge you a little bit more this direction. Or, hey, I could have been more polished, or I could have said that more succinctly, or I could have, and don't lose that. That's just like the tennis coach saying, hold your hands like this. It's going to up your game. And I don't know if that's true for you too, Crystal. Like,
I look at it as either an opportunity to improve, or it's a challenge, one or
yes,
the other.
yes.
So, okay. So, was there a rejection that ultimately taught you something valuable or redirected you towards a better opportunity?
I could actually share, it's really an eye-opening story about the interview process. And I don't know if I should say the name of the company, but it is a true story. I lived it. I was offered an interview with Ernst& Young for an opportunity in downtown Charlotte. And it was a well-paying job. I fit all their criteria. I made it through their first round, and they have this software called Higher View, VUE. And so basically you are talking to the computer, and you have to smile a lot. You have to make sure all the right cues are there. Otherwise, this hiring software will score you down and you won't make it to the second round. So it started a process at the beginning. That was like from the moment I was offered the first interview to the end was 4-month journey. And I made it all the way to the final interview. And then I was told, well, it's between you and maybe another candidate. And I said, okay, like I get it. So 2 weeks went by after the final interview, and I'd sent the nice thank you letter, and I didn't get any response. And I thought, well, aren't they going to just tell me I'm turned down if I'm turned down? Like, what ended up happening here? Like, so I went back to the gentleman that I had worked with on the recruiting side, and I said, can you find out like what happened? Because last I heard it was down to me and one other person. And he says, well, let me go check. So he wrote an email back to them and said, can you help us to understand what happened with Nancy's interview and everything else? And so I've got the email back that basically said, we're still interviewing and there's 2 other people that they're still considering. But basically we've passed over Nancy. And then to make it fun, the funny long story come full circle, the same Harvard lawyer, ironically and interestingly, grew up next door to a guy that is now one of like the top partners with Ernst & Young. And it happened to be a holiday weekend. I think it was Labor Day last year. And he says, I think so and so, my childhood friend, is going to be here. And I'm going to talk to them about, if he could just take a peek and see if he can find out anything as to why I wasn't selected. Because not getting any feedback was really kind of, after all those months, and such a letdown. And so he met with his childhood friend and he said, I'll take a look at it and I'll get back to you. So it was probably 3 or 4 days later, I got a call from my Harvard friend, and he says, well, I talked with so and so, and this is all he could say. 2 words, not real. The job itself wasn't real.
Wow.
They had actually interviewed me to meet their quota for their interview brackets. And they had taken me all the way to the end because they needed to show that.
Oh, wow.
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 When you said not real, the first thing I thought was they were saying that you weren't real, as in you weren't approachable and personable and all that because of that higher view software. But no, it was even worse than that. It was a ghost job.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
So,
So before we
Great.
get into Q&A, because I'm
Sure.
looking at the time and I want to give people time to be able to ask questions. If someone listening today has been searching for months and is starting to wonder whether they'll ever land the right opportunity, what would you want them to hear?
Is that a question for me or for everybody on the call?
No, that's for you.
Oh, okay. Could you repeat it one more time? Because I was thinking it was for the entire audience. Sorry.
No. This is before we get into Q&A, just like one last shot before I set the crew loose on you.
Okay.
So if anyone's listening today and they've been searching for months, and some folks have been searching for longer than just a few months, and is starting to wonder whether they'll ever land the right opportunity, what's the one message you want them to hear?
It's a numbers game, and it's also what's called energy work. Has anybody ever heard the term energy work? So basically, there's a great book. I really highly recommend you guys get this one. And it's a silly title, but it's a really great little small book. And it's called "Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting." "Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting" by the writer is Lynn, Lynn Grabhorn. And it's just like it sounds, like Grab Horn, Horn. She passed away a number of years ago, but she wrote this great little skinny book. And when I first read it, I was on a train ride with my .com company, and I literally read like the first 3 or 4 pages, and I shut the book and thought I'd never read the rest of it. It's kind of that kind of life-altering book. So you got to get past the first 3 or 4 pages and keep reading. And I've reread that same book maybe 5 or 6 or 7 times. Anytime I'm having a low point in my life, I will go find that book. And her messages are all about positivity. Basically, she describes that there's these negativity, like sticky balls, that the more you get stuck into some negative cycle, the negative balls will come and stick together, and pretty soon you got this whole big glom of negativity going on. And so she says you got 13 seconds to stay in a negative mode. 13 seconds, that's it. You got to clear it and you got to go back to positive. And that's in part like the discussion around, or the thought that a lot of what you're attracting in your energy work is really important with your job search. So staying positive, it's and finding that part of you where you can just continue to embrace this journey, because on the other side of it is like a whole bunch of new horizons and new opportunities. So don't get caught up in the rejection. Everybody's going to face it. Everybody's going to get a different slice of it. I just shared my own story, and several stories actually kind of embarrassing in a way. But at the same time, as somebody said to me as I was going through it, they said, Nancy, this is probably going to be another one of your books. Like, you're so deep in it right now, you don't see it. But he said, you're going to write about this because there's so much that's going to come through this. It's going to help others. And so I hope that today that was something that I was able to give everybody who's listening, or everybody who's watching this on YouTube, that you take a couple gems of these away, because these were hard-won lessons, and to not get discouraged, not take the rejections to heart. I did meet a gentleman many years ago. I was 18 years old, and I asked him for his advice, and he said, never take anything personal. And that always stuck with me as well. He said, you always keep that part of you, right, centered and grounded. Like, these life experiences are going to happen, but don't let them sort of pierce into you. Don't ever take anything personal. That was really strong words and important, especially at a young age, to take to heart. That's my other little gem.
Indeed. So, any questions? This group is never shy, so.
Okay, I'll go ahead and just stop recording.
Yep.
Thank you again.